Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Tuesday. And yes, we are live. It is 4 p.m. Eastern time. What time? It's 2 p.m. Mountain time. I'm Clayton Morris. So glad to see all of you. Yes, welcome into the show. Sorry, I keep getting thrown off because of this single shot thing that at the start of the show.
I fixed that yesterday, and then I fixed that yesterday, and apparently I forgot to save. So
I'm looking over here on the two shot to start the show, and I'm like, hey, welcome in, everybody.
Finally, you get the show without me, like you've always wanted.
Like I've always
taking
dreamed.
over the world, one YouTube show at a time.
Welcome in, everybody. We got a lot of crazy news today to get to. On this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media ignores. They are ignoring a huge piece of this Greenland story. Of course, everyone wants to talk about, we're going to spread MAGA values into Greenland.
Imperial expansion.
Yeah, and that's what this is. No, it's really, it's a much deeper story than that. And what President Trump just said at a press conference doubles down on our expansion into the Arctic Circle. What does this mean for Vladimir Putin? Putin responding, Russia responding, China responding to all of this. So are we looking at a new Arctic Cold War? We've been really predicting this here on the show for a couple of years, and now it looks like it's finally here.
Plus, the traitorous Mark Zuckerberg posted a 5-minute video saying Facebook now is all about free speech, like it always was. Back to their roots, they say, because of the recent election. Well, that's rich. What would they have done if Kamala Harris had won? Keep censoring? Like the Democrats wanted? You let me know if you are forgiving of Facebook for what they've done during the, communist regime of the Biden-Obama era. I'm not feeling very forgiving. That's a spoiler alert. I don't feel very good about it. I'm mad as snakes, but let me know what you think.
Do you guys have empathy for Mark Zuckerberg? What's the real story here? Is it money? Is it because they're trying to follow the money now? They realize everyone's going over to X. No one's using Threads. Who the hell? No one. By the way, do any of you use Threads, for crying out loud? That's supposed to be their Facebook's version of X. Mm-hmm. No one's using that garbage. I just went there right after the election just to kind of troll a little bit, just to have some fun. I just had some fun because I wanted to see if was anyone even using this thing. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you got pedophiles. Mostly it's just pedophiles and child predators using the Blue Sky platform. We now know they've been catching all kinds of child predators on Blue Sky. So maybe Mark Zuckerberg is like, hey, we've got to build something up here and try to make as much money as we can. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe we can go through all of the things we think about it. I have a lot of thoughts. We're going to talk about it together. We're also going to talk about McDonald's ditching their DEI policies. And also the San Francisco Chronicle says that transphobic apparel is the new hotness. So if you want to be fashionable, this is not a fashion show, but we're going to talk about it. And also, we have a couple of guests coming up.
We do. In fact, Owen Shroyer is going to be joining us from InfoWars, the War Room. I had a chance to speak with him just a short time ago, and we had a great discussion about censorship, a lot about this Facebook stuff and what YouTube CEO just had to say about being a bastion of freedom. That's what the YouTube CEO says, bastion of free speech. YouTube is a bastion of free speech. I almost fell out of my chair on that one. And also...
yeah, I know. I'll wait for my apology. Never. Also, we have a first-time redacted guest, Xi Van Fleet. She is the author of Mao's America, a shocking book that lays out exactly how the Biden regime was like Mao's communist China. She's going to talk to us about all the things that we have lived through and what happens next. What should China, our relationship with China look like under an incoming Trump administration? Can communism actually die? Is that what we voted for? All those things. So I'm excited for you to hear that interview.
Well, we got a lot of news to get to here in a moment. We're going to get to your news update in just a second. But I don't know if you saw central banks around the world doubling down on gold, doubling down on precious minerals, buying up silver. Yes, because of what is coming right now. And we could be seeing major sell-offs on Wall Street. But the doubling down and buying and acquiring gold is happening in real time. Trump's cabinet choices are in place. All of this is about to happen here in America. We're heading into January 20th. President Trump holding a press conference today, finally making some big statements about where he wants this America First policy to go. He's obviously pushed very deeply to make sure that we have a reserve of gold in the United States and also a reserve of Bitcoin in the United States. So a lot to get excited about, but there are some troubling warning signs heading into the economy. And that's why, particularly for the U.S. dollar, that's why we are big proponents of owning gold and silver. Natalie and I have talked about this for years. owning tangible assets, real estate, gold, silver, things that they can't take away from you, things that you own, whether it's in your own home, in your own gun safe, whether it's in offsite storage that you have under 24-hour lock and key guarded for you, totally up to you. And our friends at Lear Capital can help you do that. Just get on the phone with them and call them. There's no obligation. Just talk to them. They're an American patriotic company. They have a team that's dedicated to our show. They will talk to you. They're not going to be farmed out to some Indian call center somewhere. You will talk to Americans about your financial future. Maybe you have $1,000 in US dollars in savings. Can you convert that over to gold? Can you convert that over to silver? You know, obviously, Ron Paul, a huge fan of this strategy, making sure that you're owning actual tangible assets in your portfolio. I can't stress that enough. They actually have a free gold report that you can get. If you give them a call, ask for their gold report and what that looks like as gold could hit $3,200 an ounce here in short order. Call them 1-800-613-3557. They'll actually help you roll over an old IRA. If you've got an IRA or an old 401k that's sitting there after you left a job, you can actually roll that over into a self-directed IRA, and you can actually invest in anything you want, real estate, gold, silver, anything. And they're really an education company. So call them 1-800-613-3557 or go to learredacted.com. Great friends of the show. What a way to kick off the year, by the way. You can receive up to $15,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase. All right, folks. Well, everyone better wake up because make no mistake about it. The reason Donald Trump Jr. just landed in Greenland is not about spreading MAGA values and just want to show off and have some good, cozy new relations. No, it's about preparing for a war over the Northern Sea route, a vital passage for global trade, military positioning. It's about securing a major strategic landmass before the coming war in Scandinavia. And by the way, friend of the show, Colonel Douglas McGregor, reported that the Trump team already has a Greenland plan in place in order to acquire Greenland, has already put this plan in place. They have it mapped out. So is he there to deliver this message? Well, here was Donald Trump Jr. just a short time ago landing. Here's Trump Force One landing in Greenland aboard Trump Force One. There it is. There's the airplane coming in the capital city. And then President Trump posted on Truth Social just a short time after that, for purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Okay. And just moments ago, President Trump held a press conference where he doubled down on his intention to essentially buy or take Greenland for national security purposes. He said he will place massive tariffs on Denmark if they don't immediately relinquish all control of Greenland. We need Greenland for national security purposes. Watch.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
Have you asked your staff to draw plans for?
Yeah, tariff them at a very high level. Basically relinquish control. The 45,000 people living there. So Donald Trump Jr. went on a bit of a tour over the past 24 hours, and everyone's wearing a MAGA hat in Greenland. They're super excited about it. President Trump even called in during Don Jr.'s meeting with a group of individuals at a different cafe, and everyone there is wearing a MAGA hat. And he said, you guys need security. You're surrounded by Russian ships, Chinese ships, Russian nuclear war submarines. And they yelled, yes, we need you. So a new NATO military base, Greenland, a massive piece of land. You know, we have a globe in our living room. I was just looking at it today. I'm just like, you realize how massive Greenland is, a massive piece of property. And President Trump has likened it to a massive real estate deal. I guess like in the vein of like the Louisiana Purchase, purchasing, you know, all the massive territory under Thomas Jefferson and expanding the size and scope of the United States. So on this show, here's Don Jr. Showing off a bit of Greenland as he landed. Watch this.
Guys, we're here in Nook, Greenland. This is the founder, 1721. That yellow house with the red top, that was his original spot. That's where he moved. This is where it all started out here. Just incredible scenery. Super cool stuff.
Just to be clear, I'm not cheering this. Someone in the chat here, Dopamine Field, says Redacted is cheering almost on occupying new land by force.
When? How did you get that?
What? Did I say that? I don't believe I said that, actually. I mean, and first of all, I didn't ever say anything about occupying by force.
What jubilance have we exhibited?
About imperialism. I don't exactly know how that came across, but all I'm doing is explaining what's about to happen here. And so this would be a massive expansion of NATO, right? Again, further now out into the Atlantic. Are we going to take Iceland next? Is that what we're going to do? Just keep grabbing them up?
I don't think anybody voted for this.
I mean, NATO's already expanded right to President Putin's doorstep with the expansion into Finland over the past year and a half. Was something Putin said will not stand. We are facing a war in Scandinavia. Make no mistake about it. On the show for over 2 years, we've talked about the coming war in the Arctic Circle. Billy Meyer laid all of this coming war out decades ago. This is not new information. We will fight a war in Scandinavia over the North shipping lanes through the Arctic Circle. I've spoken to military strategists who agree that this is coming. The Arctic is home to an estimated 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of natural gas reserves undiscovered in this region. Also, passage through the Arctic shaves 40% off the time it takes to deliver minerals and goods across the world. The U.S. is so far behind in the Arctic, it's not even funny. Russia and China are light years ahead there. Get this, we only have one ice-breaking ship. One. We have $1 trillion per year military budget, and we have just one icebreaker ship. Rex Tillerson, former Exxon CEO and Secretary of State under Trump, talked about this recently. Listen.
What I can tell you is the United States is behind. We're behind all the other Arctic nations. They have dealt with this. They've gotten way ahead of us. The Russians made it a strategic priority. Even the Chinese are building ice-breaking tankers. Now, why are they building icebreakers? They're not an Arctic nation because they see the value of these passages. So we're late to the game. I think we have one functioning icebreaker today. The Coast Guard's very proud of it. Yeah. As crummy as it is. Yeah. And I know in the budget, there is money in the budget for us to build another icebreaker. But the whole Arctic region, because of what's happened with the opening of the Arctic passageways from an economic and trade standpoint, but certainly from a national security standpoint, is vitally important to our interest. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Economic
interest and national security interests. Because again, are we going to sit back and watch China and Russia already? They've been doing this for over a decade now. We are so far behind in this. Really started happening under Obama, sort of relinquished control there of the Arctic Sea route and these shipping lanes. And of course, outsourced all of this. I mean, whether it's rare earth minerals to Russia. We don't hardly enrich any uranium in the United States at all, thanks to the Clintons. Give away all of that. So yeah, if Greenland wants to vote and become part of the United States, then they can vote and become part of the United States.
We can thank environmentalists for that too, because every time the United States tries to enrich its own minerals or mine for anything that is a component of anything that we use, environmentalists sue to stop it. So yeah, we can't pin it all on the Clintons as much as we'd like to.
Yeah, well, so I don't think Putin's going to allow it to happen, but we'll see here. Putin says, quote, this is a strategic priority for Russia. This area, of course, in the Arctic region, constructing bases, deploying advanced weaponry. They've now deployed hypersonic missiles into the Arctic territories, nuclear-powered submarines all through this region. So China and Russia basically dominate this area right now. So that's what this whole Greenland play is all about. It'll be interesting to see what Putin does in response, and are they just going to allow this to happen? We'll keep our eye on it. It's going to be interesting to see what Denmark does, too. Are they going to allow these? I mean, I don't know if you saw this over the past few days. Did you see what Denmark did? Because Denmark doesn't give a shit about Greenland, right? So what they did was they changed their coat of arms. If you look at Denmark's coat of arms, it has like a little tiny thing on it that used to show Greenland. And in the past few days, they've changed their coat of arms to make Greenland like a bigger part of their coat of arms. They're like, no, we do care about you. Suddenly, now that Trump's talking about this, it's pretty funny. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, I just imagine that everybody in the CIA is clenching their butt cheeks right now because they're like, that's not how we take over countries. We do it covertly, through media manipulation. They're like, you don't just come out and say it.
Right. And we're going to offer you money and, and sort of a strategic partnership. And you guys want to vote on this to become a part of the United States? Then, okay, we'll see if this goes.
The CIA is like, what happens if they say no?
Right.
We don't usually give them a choice.
There's a whole team at the CIA waiting. Like, hey, we have our friends at Al-Qaeda and ISIS that we've created. Did you guys need like a regime change operation? We'll send ISIS in there like we usually do.
It's like the old Hawaii team still around? Because they can just orchestrate a coup.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook says it will no longer censor content in a 5-minute video by founder Mark Zuckerberg. He says that all Meta platforms are now free speech and that instead of censorship, they're going to move to community notes the same way X does it. Basically a copy and paste, like, hey, that's working over there. You guys are engaged. Here's the post. You can find it for yourself. If you can forgive this guy, go ahead. I am having a hard time with this because in this video, because I'm going to try and keep it short. In this video, he admits that there have been rules and censorship on Facebook, but he blames the Biden administration. Fully under the bus, Biden administration. Now, he says that now that Trump is taking office, he's all about free speech. Now, we can give him the teeniest bit of the pass because in the Twitter files, we saw that even though Facebook executives were asked to censor, they said, well, this is not really right, but the government won't back us and they'll come after us in terms of regulation if we don't do it. So we kind of have to. And that was the extent of their resistance. And then beyond that, it was full steam ahead, whatever the Biden administration wanted, whatever the Clinton campaign wanted, whatever the Obama era wanted, full censorship. It's been like this for over a decade. That's not how freedom works. Let's refer to founding father Thomas Jefferson on this. He said, famously, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Notice he did not say stand for freedom or free speech when it's allowed or when a pro-freedom leader is in office. No, we have to be eternally vigilant. That means you stick your neck out when freedoms are being taken. We needed him over the last 4 years, not after it was over. So while I absolutely just seethe over this, let's listen to what he says. First, he says that the conversation around censorship revolves around potential harms. Notice the word potential is big here. He's no longer trying to sell us this idea that leftists have been trying to sell us that words are violence. So that's good. Maybe that talking point is dead. Here's what he says he's going to do now.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Okay. So we've been restricted to talk about gender and immigration. If you wanted to talk about the border crisis, that has not been allowed. If you wanted to talk about men and women's sports or misgender people or use pronouns that were not allowed, that there have been rules there. He says there won't be any more. It's starting in the United States, so be careful if you live abroad still. So remember those who said that people who claimed they were being censored were crazy? When are those apologies coming? I'd like to know. We've known this again we've known this for a long time, but we've known it especially since the Twitter files. So it's not a surprise, but it's annoying. So what does this mean now? And as for those content moderators, well, many are saying, so he's saying, no, because Facebook has had these independent fact checkers. Well, it turns out those independent people were paid heavily by Facebook, and that business now might just die. Here's what Glenn Greenwald said about it. He says there's a panic in the self-anointed disinformation and fact-checking groups that have been coerced big tech to pay them to dictate which political ideas must be removed. The post-2016 financing of this censorship industrial complex brought power and profit, but now Facebook won't pay anymore. So that's amazing. All these people who worked in disinformation. I once ran into a young girl, remember, in a bar who was like, oh, I'm moving to America to work on disinformation. It's really important. Like, this is what young people are making their careers out of now. She had just finished university, English girl. So she's going to have to find something else to do because this industry might just implode. You don't get to tell other people what's true and what's false anymore.
Yeah.
Say something.
No, I mean, I think, well, like the Babylon Bee headline today, I don't know if you guys saw it. It was pretty funny. Let me see. It said the Babylon Bee said the guy who said Facebook was not suppressing free speech announces Facebook will stop suppressing free speech.
Right.
Right. The irony here. So
yes.
We're not suppressing free speech at all.
Another point for conspiracy knowers.
Was he lied to by his own staff? I mean, that seems to be the thing. You know, was he lied to by his own fact checkers or own like higher up staff here? Is he like a lone wolf now?
Well, I mean, this all came to a head in post 2016 results of the election, where everyone who was a liberal said this only happened because hateful people were allowed to share politics on Facebook about how much they hated Hillary Clinton, as if that were a baseless thing to feel. And so they ramped up and shut down the ability to say things that were anti-democrat. That's really how we got here. What's funny, though, is that he says now in order to gain back trust, he's going to move any content moderation teams that remain to Texas because people just don't trust anyone from California anymore. Watch this.
We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams.
Okay, so no one in California can do this anymore because everyone else who doesn't live in California knows their speech is filtered through California, and California is full of leftist extremists. But I mean, it's an interesting question, though, because you can't move those existing people and move them to Texas. You have to just get rid of the people who are in and from California. If this is a legitimate, I mean, I kind of call bullshit on this as an excuse anyway, but you know, what's interesting about this, Elon Musk moved his teams to Texas. A lot of people are moving out of California because it's so expensive. Is that real, or is he going to take the same extremists and just move them to Texas? Who knows? Now, he says he tried to solve this by removing politics, this bias on the site, because people were just too stressed. But now he's like, look, you guys want to talk about politics. We're bringing this back. Watch this.
Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive.
Okay. Positive, they
positive.
said. Is it? Yeah.
So I saw another meme today where it showed AI of Zuckerberg just like leaning over and like trying to study the homework of Elon Musk, and he's just copying the notes because, you know, that's exactly what X has now done. Like your Grok score for positivity, and like, oh, we're going to now have community notes, and what else can I copy off of Elon Musk over here?
Yeah. And here is where he says that he's going to work with Trump now to push back on censorship around the world because America is supposed to have been a leader, but he couldn't do that under the Biden administration. Watch how he just, again, drags the Biden administration through the mud, blaming them for what he has done.
Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it.
Okay, he's going to take it. He didn't when it was costly to him, but now that it's A-okay, he's going to do it. But what would he have done if Kamala Harris had won? Would he just keep going? I mean, that's not bravery now that it's safe.
Right.
I was interacting with some people online today, and I was like, you know what? I want every one of us that was punished for saying things that we should have been free to say to have some kind of badge to show that we spoke for freedom when it was not allowed. Not now that it's allowed. You don't get a badge now that it's allowed. You had to have done it when it was risky or you didn't mean it. And I'm pissed about it. Also, let's not forget. So he's saying, now I'm going to work with the Trump administration. He censored the Biden story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, when Trump was president. So he had, sorry, Clayton said to stop banging on the table. He had the opportunity to work with Trump and he refused. So why this time? Should they get a second chance when he's betrayed us all? And doesn't even matter. Is it too late just because grandparents are on Facebook and nobody else? I wonder. Also, will it save them from the litigation for answering for what they'd done? Here's what DC Drano said he was about to be investigated for giving $400 million plus to Democratic election operations in 2020. So he went to Trump and said, well, what changes do you want on Facebook? I'm sorry, that should still happen. He absolutely should be investigated for the money that he funneled into the Clinton administration, into Democrats, into all of this. Well, still want that.
And Elon Musk, even after Elon Musk took over, said, yeah, hey, all the lawsuits against Twitter, bring them on. You know, if they did you wrong,
they should answer for that.
They should answer for it, even though I'm the new CEO. Bring it on. And if you guys
can't kiss the ring and then be forgiven. No, that's not how it works. I want equal justice under the law. They censored speech. They worked in collusion with the U.S. government against American citizens. Absolutely not.
And do they still have this back door? Do you know that Facebook has a back door? We had Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai on the show, and Dr. Shiva opened my eyes to this a number of years ago, which was that backdoor portal that allowed the government basically to censor Americans going around. They had a one-on-one conversation, backdoor portal that allowed government officials to go right into Facebook and ban accounts, take content down, whether it's about COVID, whether it was about big pharma. It didn't really matter whether it was about the election, January 6th, and they could remove content using this back door that Dr. Shiva pointed out in his massive lawsuit because he was massively censored. And so, I think absolutely we should know if that still exists, right?
But let's talk about the dominoes to fall, because now we have a free speech platform still with the restrictions on X. Now Facebook is saying they'll do this. We still have restrictions on YouTube as YouTube creators. Rumble is a free speech platform. Pinterest was also part of the Twitter files. They were ordered to remove content that was in any way unfavorable to the Democrats. So I'd like to hear from those two companies, YouTube and Pinterest. Tell me what you're going to do different now, because we know you colluded with the U.S. government for censorship. Is that now something that, we saw YouTube at least speak up for free speech in the New York Times article against more conservative creators. That's a start. What about the rules? What are the rules going forward? And for those of us who've been punished before, can we walk that back? When's our apology coming? I'm so curious.
Yeah, Michael Guy in our chat says lawsuits for suppressing the First Amendment. Yeah, for what? Go ahead, Philip.
It wouldn't be suppressing the First Amendment on Facebook because they're a private company. But I think it's interesting that this follows so closely to their absolutely like disastrous AI influencer campaign they just tried to launch into Facebook, where they were going to flood Facebook with a bunch of AI generated influencers, and it backfired tremendously. So they immediately like pulled the plug on that, and then they followed up with this. I just find that interesting, the timing on these two events.
Right.
Yeah, the failure of the metaverse, the collapse of the metaverse, and now the failure of this AI-generated BS content. So you're going back to your roots of free speech.
Free expression, right. I mean, the roots of Facebook was a dating app, so... Okay, what roots are we talking about? And I believe we do see currently the courts working out how much the First Amendment applies to social networks, whether they're private or not. And we haven't got around to that yet. So, okay. Anyway, let me know how you feel about that. Are you feeling forgiving? Do you find this very sincere? It is a change, at least in the rules of engagement in the United States alone. Will this, in fact, affect what other countries do? Let me know. Let me know what you think.
Well, drum roll, please. The most underreported story of 2024 has been announced. According to CBS News, a CBS News reporter, Jan Crawford. Now, see if you guys can figure out exactly what Jan here. That's Jan there. Can you guys name the most underreported story of 2024? Guesses. Any guesses? What do you guys think? What do you think, Philip? Well, you probably already know because you read
the
ahead.
Success of Godzilla -1. I don't know.
No. The most censored story, the most underreported. I shouldn't say censored. The most underreported on purpose story of 2024 by the legacy media was the decline of Joe Biden's mental state. CBS says we should have done better. Reports from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, other outlets revealed that some advisors close to President Biden had been concerned about Biden's health from the earliest days of his administration. Right out of the gate. They didn't tell anyone?
I'm shocked, I say, Clayton. I'm absolutely floored by this brand new information.
The White House frequently dismissed questions, of course, about his abilities, even called videos that appeared to show Biden confused or out of step. They called them cheap fakes. You remember,
Can we just,
remember that?
For a second, humor me, go through the things that the mainstream media is now admitting that it refused to admit during the 2024 campaign. Let's see. The border crisis. The Wall Street Journal yesterday posting that joblessness is a problem after the liberal media told us it was not, so that Kamala Harris could be elected. Biden's mental decline and the censorship complex. All of those things were true that they told us were not. I'm sorry. I'm freaking out about it. Freaking out. But okay, go ahead.
No, think about one day after the election, or was it 2 days, AOC came out and published a video where she's like, we should stop having fake candidates who don't believe what they say.
Okay.
Referring to Kamala Harris. Like, well, where were you a few days before the election? Couldn't you have told us that Kamala Harris is phony? Yeah. No, because you wanted her to win. But then a few days after the election, you come out and you tell us she was a total phony? All of these people.
To be fair to the media, though, I don't think that like the person who's in charge of the nuclear codes of the United States, their mental decline is barely news, right? I mean,
right? Yeah, it wasn't a big story. I mean, we literally hunted down. Was it Grover Cleveland? I forget off the top of my head. I always get these two stories mixed up. It was Taft or Cleveland.
The one who had the surgery on the boat.
He had the surgery on the over the 4th of July holiday. He had part of his jaw removed because he had like a huge cancerous tumor in his mouth. I'm pretty sure it was Grover Cleveland, and they lied to the press about it. And they basically the president disappeared for a few days. No one knew where he was. He was on a boat getting a emergency surgery, and no one knew about it. And one reporter was like asking questions about it, and he got like demonized. They ruined his life, this one reporter. 20 years later, they finally apologized. They did. But so we should be asking questions of the most powerful man in the world. Where is he? What is his mental state? But we weren't allowed to. So here's how CBS says. It's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations, Jane Crawford says from CBS News. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years, and yet he insisted he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office another 4 years, Crawford continues, arguing that the added media pressure could have led to a primary for the Democrats. Yes. If the legacy media had all come together and say, this guy he's out of his mind. He's got dementia. You guys, you're going to
and then you could have picked someone other than Kamala Harris and had a shot at people at a candidate who people felt engaged in and had agency for.
Right.
Imagine that.
It could have changed the scope of the entire election, she says. Yet still incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump, and I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting him. Okay, so why wasn't this covered? Why wasn't this covered by the mainstream media? And only now the sort of post-mortem from the legacy media telling us that they should have pushed harder. It's the most underreported story. It's your fault. But hey, that ship has sailed. Here was Senator Chuck Schumer just this weekend, pushed on this very question now suddenly by NBC News. Now today or this week, they're now asking this question. Watch.
I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
No. Look, we didn't. And let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go.
Right. Did you notice how he shook his head no when he answered that question? Yeah. I'm not going to speculate on whether or not he could have run another 4 years. So you lied to us. You lied to us, and you colluded with the mainstream media. So the fact that Kristen Welker now at NBC News is asking Chuck Schumer this on January 4th, 2025, where were you at? Mainstream media asking this question back in the spring.
Well, McDonald's will ditch their DEI goals. Here is a statement from McDonald's basically saying, hey, we had some inclusion goals, racial diversity, all that stuff in 2024. We feel pretty good about it, but we're not going to set any new ones. Here is a list of all the things that they're saying. And I know you can't read this on your screen, so I'm going to summarize it for yourself, but I want you to have the ability to read it for yourself. That's why I give you this document. So they're saying they're retiring these goals or pausing them or phasing them out. Robbie Starbuck, someone you may follow on X, has been at the forefront of pushing these companies to ditch these racist quotas. Here he is breaking down the corporate speak of McDonald's in a more reasonable and understandable way. Watch.
Of your time, we're going to jump ahead past a lot of the corporate word salad and go straight into what they're changing. So let me go and translate this corporate speak for you. First bullet point, we are retiring setting aspirational representation goals. And then it's a bunch of blah, blah, blah corporate speak. Let me translate what that means. McDonald's, like many Fortune 500 companies, they had what they would call targets or goals. In reality, they work like racial quotas, but they say these are certainly not quotas. Don't call them that. This is just a goal for them to hire, say, 50% people of color, whatever it might be, into a certain position. And then wouldn't you know it, they hire just the amount that they put, but it's not a quota. Don't call it a quota. Second bullet point, and always one of my favorites, we are pausing external surveys to focus on the work we are doing internally. AKA, we are leaving the HRC's Corporate Equality Index social credit scoring system. Keep in mind, this was a company that had a perfect HRC CEI score, and that HRC CEI scoring system is how woke policies get forced into workplaces. So they are, again, the latest company to leave that scoring system, and that is good news. And now bullet point number 3, Bakery, one of my favorites, they are going to be retiring their supply chain's DEI pledge in favor of a system that relates to business performance. Imagine that, a merit-based system. This is what every company needs to be doing. The days of favoring one group of people over another based on diversity need to be gone. Bullet point number 4 here is one I'm not particularly a fan of, and I'm not happy with when companies do this. They are evolving how they refer to their diversity team, which will now be the global inclusion team. I think it's ridiculous. We don't need these teams, okay? It is a job. It is a workplace. You go there to work. People don't need a team assigned at corporate to making sure everybody feels included, okay? We're not kindergartners. We're adults. It's a workplace. It's a place people go to shop. Just provide great service, be kind, do the right thing, be fair. And if you're a company executive, lay down the hammer when somebody breaks the law. Everybody's all for that, but there's no need for DEI teams at all. No need for a diversity team.
Okay. So incidentally, McDonald's has had diversity all along. One of their largest beef distributors is a company owned by Mexican family. I did a profile on this back in the early 2000s for Hispanic magazine. So, and you see a lot of staff working at McDonald's stores are automatically diverse. This is not something that we really needed from them. So now we know that McDonald's will no longer pander to communist manifestos, making them one in a long line, actually, of companies. Here's Robbie Starbuck's a sort of hit list of companies that he has called out and that they have publicly said they're not going to do this anymore. So let's just look at them. Ford, John Deere, Lowe's, Walmart, Nissan, Coors, Toyota, DeWalt Tools, Tractor Supply. They were one of the first. Harvey Davidson, Boeing, Jack Daniels, Craftsman, Stanley Black & Decker, Caterpillar, Indian Motorcycle, and now McDonald's. So if you have a company that is laying down these racist policies, you know where to go. This guy, he's a dog with a bone, I will say. A dog with a bone.
I love it. Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments. A lot of people saying, McDonald's is doing a lot of things correctly. So this is just another move there. And I think a lot of these companies are recognizing that people just are voting with their dollars. Once they're finding out that these companies are doing it. Like we talked yesterday with Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, who said, we need to vote with our dollars on a lot of these companies. And we are. People aren't going to the movies. They're not going to these Disney movies anymore. Right. They're turning away. And these companies are seeing it in their bottom line. My mom the other day was like, Natalie, do you want to go to Starbucks? And I was like, no, I don't want to pay for a young girl to get her boobs chopped off. Right. She was like, okay, let's go somewhere else. Tommy in our chat says, is Redacted stopping our DEI policies? No, Natalie is a DEI hire. Because she's got global face, so she's part of our. I check all the boxes. She's part of our DEI program here. Right.
She's the entirety of our DEI program.
She's our full DEI program.
I'm a woman. I have Spanish blood. Yeah.
Trans man.
I'm hearing impaired.
She's hearing impaired.
All of those things.
All of it. Yeah. It's amazing.
All right.
She's a walking DEI.
Okay. Well, this is not a fashion show, but I thought I'd give you this bit of fashion advice because the San Francisco Chronicle would like to warn you that transphobic apparel is the new hotness. That's what this headline says. It's basically the new MAGA hat to piss off liberals. Well, what do they mean by transphobic apparel? They mean this. This guy's t-shirt is transphobic. What does it say? Clayton, can you read that?
It says, save girls sports.
Look at all those transphobes. All of them.
Oh my God. So look at all these transphobic.
Yeah. To say that you want girls sports to not have biological men in them.
He would have the balls to wear that shirt.
I think that it's... Oh, I get what you did.
See what I did there?
Yeah, took me a second. It's not so much that they're wearing it, it's that they're wearing it in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's really bothering them. They go even further than that. They say that, so they give you this, take a look from this article, this nonsense about gender is on a spectrum, blah, 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 sex and gender. They're wrong. Gender performance is on a spectrum, but sex is not. But look at this line below that. Besides terrorizing these trans communities, one clear outcome this dust up seems to be having is a whole lot of t-shirt sales. So they're just so confused why these t-shirts are selling like hotcakes. people feel this way.
So we use the word terrorized.
Terror, like Guantanamo Bay level stuff.
I'm talking like New Orleans terror attack level stuff here.
That's how these people feel when they see a transphobic shirt like this, such as this.
Terrorizing.
So seeing a shirt you don't like is terror. They say, okay, terror, to the tune of Guantanamo Bay. So the push to wear this shirt obviously comes from a common sense opinion that many people share, according to most polls, that they do not want males to compete with girls in sports or to enter their locker rooms. This whole sex is a spectrum stuff is nonsense. Gender performance is a spectrum, sure, fine. You can perform your gender however you want, but sex is actually marked on every single one of your 70 trillion cells in your body. Besides the people, they mentioned Algerian boxer Imani Khalif. She has an intersex condition. She's not a trans woman, a trans person, full stop. Okay. What I want to say is that these trans advocates say that they should be able to wear whatever they want, whenever they want. Like this weekend, Jonathan Van Ness wore this dress to the Golden Globes. He does not identify as a woman. He says he's a gay man.
I just want to go on the record and say I'm terrorized by that.
Are you?
I'm terrorized by seeing that.
That's
I don't ever
terrifying.
want to. That's terrifying. I'm terrified by that.
I don't care that he wears that. It's fine by me, but I think he should be subjected to the same fashion police as women are, when you can say, doesn't fit you well, if that's what we're doing. Like, that's not flattering, a sort of one-sided, off-shoulder. If a woman wore it in this way, then she would be subject to criticism, and I have a lot of problems with it. The hair is very sleek, fine. But I think that if trans people can wear whatever they want, then that should apply to these shirts as well. Then they should walk the walk, let anybody wear a shirt, even if it's transphobic and says save women's sports. Let us know what you think of that.
All right, we got a lot more news to get to here. Owen Shroyer, I sat down with him just a short time ago from InfoWars to talk about this censorship industrial complex. Of course, InfoWars, one of the most heavily censored news shows on the internet, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So I wanted to talk to Owen about that. So we're going to play that for you in just a moment. And also we're going to speak to the author of Mao's America to talk about whether or not the United States has actually escaped the grasps of communism that we have seen growing during the Obama-Biden years, or if it's still going to rear its ugly head. I'm very excited to introduce you to Van Fleet, the first time that she's on Redacted. But before we do that, I want to remind you that Redacted is sponsored by NetSuite by Oracle, because if you are setting your goals for 2025 for your business, now is a great time to make sure that you have the software that can grow with your business. Because, of course, we don't all have a crystal ball. We don't know what the economy will bring under an incoming Trump administration. We know 2024 has been hard. Is that going to continue? Is it going to get better? We don't know. But at least with the software that has real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. Whether you're closing books in days or weeks, you're not spending time looking backwards, but more time on looking forward. What's next? This is, as a Virgo, my favorite time of year, when you look over your spreadsheets from the previous year and set your goals for the next and think about how you want your company to grow. We'll do that with the most intuitive software that you can find by heading over to netsuite.com/redacted. You can download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning that can help you not only teach you to look at your company's numbers and forecasting, what have you, but learn how to optimize machine learning and AI to predict where you're going to go smarter. How can you get there smarter? So again, download this free guide at netsuite.com/redacted. Everything you need to grow all in one place. One more time, that's netsuite.com/redacted. Well, the CEO of YouTube yesterday said that YouTube is the bastion of free speech, where the world's most pressing debates thrive. About fell out of my chair when I heard that. And overnight, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook CEO, says they're ditching their fact checkers. They're turning Facebook into a free speech platform. I think I'm living in a bizarro world. Watch.
We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams.
So what the hell is happening? Well, no one has been more censored than the team from InfoWars, for sure. And one of the excellent journalists of the world that everyone should be following and paying attention to is Owen Shroyer. And we thought Owen would be perfect to come in and talk about this. Owen, welcome to the show. First time Redacted guest. Great to have you here finally.
No, great to be here. I've also been a long-time listener of you and Natalie as well. You guys do great work. And so it's nice to have this meeting of the minds, not just here, but I think more generally speaking as well, with some of the what used to be called alternative media kind of now becoming mainstream. I tune into you guys and listen to you guys more so than the quote unquote mainstream news. So it's nice to finally be here.
Likewise, and you make up part of my morning routine, evening routine, and so it's great to finally have you here on the show. Really thrilled to do that. And I thought, it'd be perfect to talk with you about this censorship, maybe reversal. So, on the surface, it's great for us to say we wake up and we see this news from Mark Zuckerberg. We see some maybe life signs out of YouTube that, wow, we're really a free speech platform. We're not going to censor content anymore. But what's really going on here? Can you help make sense of it for us?
Well, I'm writing this note down right now as you're asking that, and I'm saying to myself, well, what is Facebook thinking? Is Facebook thinking we are losing ground in a certain market of users? Is Facebook saying our views are going down? Is Facebook saying we need to find a way to compete with X because our Threads app just hasn't been there? So is this more of a business decision, or is it actually a philosophical decision that Mark Zuckerberg is making here? Basically, I guess opening the doors saying, okay, unofficially, if you've been banned or censored on Facebook before, give it another go. You're welcome on our platform again. I guess I might be willing to test that. Of course, I was censored in 2018, so it's been so long, it's like an afterthought to me, but I suppose I could maybe test the theory. I think another train of thought would be, it was, I think, 24 hours or so ago when Mark Zuckerberg announced 3 new members of the board, one being, of course, Dana White, who campaigned with President Donald Trump. He's friends with Donald Trump. And I'm thinking, is this some Trump influence? Is this some Trump influence on Zuckerberg? Of course, he went to Mar-a-Lago. He had meetings with Trump. Did Trump even maybe kind of give Zuckerberg a nudge and shove Dana White onto the board so he can kind of maybe oversee things and have some influence? Dana White, a very pro-free speech individual. He doesn't censor his athletes, and they say some pretty outlandish things. So Dana White, obviously known for supporting free speech. So I think, there's 3 different trains of thought here. Is this a business decision? Is it a philosophical decision? Or is this the Trump influence now on Facebook or the larger platform Meta? But I think we'll have to wait and see, right? We'll have to wait and see if Facebook really does reinstate individuals like myself, if they truly stop the censorship of conservative commentary. That will only be decided in time. But I can't help but look at this as a positive thing, and let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I'd like to test it out as well. I'd like to I haven't used Facebook in years, and I don't know really anyone under 70 years old that uses it, to be honest with you. I certainly don't use it.
Is that true? I wouldn't. I don't know what goes on there anymore.
I think, maybe my mom, she wants to check in on how the cousins are doing or something like that. But that's really about it, right? No one under, I think, 70 really uses those platforms. So I think you're right. Maybe there's got to be a financial piece of this. And also, DC Drano posted this, a short time ago. Zuckerberg, he says, let's be real. Zuckerberg was about to be investigated for giving $400 million to Democrat election operations in 2020. So he went to Trump and said, what changes do you want on Facebook? Which kind of plays off a little bit of what you're saying here, right? Sort of the behind the scenes dealings for this. And was he about to be investigated in some larger capacity? And how damaging has it been? I mean, we saw his admission to Joe Rogan about basically colluding with the FBI to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yeah, there were a lot of strange admissions in that Joe Rogan podcast that I was a little kind of upset with Joe for not pushing back more on Zuckerberg. But I suppose as time has passed, you could say, okay, good job, because Joe basically got everything or a lot of things out of him. He got him to admit a lot of things. So now we're kind of looking at it. I think it would be wise to consider Zuckerberg as maybe worried, let's say, about investigations coming, or he's trying to curry favor with President Trump, knowing he was working against Trump in 2020 maybe even did some illegal things, some shenanigans. So there's definitely a factor there. But when you talk about the user base, Facebook was originally intended, at least from my recollection, I mean, it was first just for college students, then it kind of expanded to anybody. And it was mostly just sharing pictures, keeping people updated on, maybe your personal life, whatever. And then in 2016, everything kind of got political, right? I mean, no matter what the platform was, it was just like this black hole. Everything was sucked into the political debates, including Facebook. So there's no doubt that they were anti-conservative commentary, because that's who got banned. But I'm wondering if they're sitting here saying, we've lost so much of our user base now that maybe does want to use our platform just for photo archives, video archives, keeping up to date with friends and family, is kind of relinquishing the censorship or claiming we're getting rid of fact checkers. Is that something that can draw them back in? Is this something where we can bring people back to our platform just for the intended purposes of archives, photos, videos, keeping up with friends and family? Again, I think we'll see. But with the larger issue, there is no doubt that conservative commentary, or let's say right-wing journalists, have been the target of discrimination and censorship since really 2018, probably even beyond, but that's when it really started. And then 2020 is really when the hammer came down. So from a larger standpoint, yeah, I would fall off my chair laughing too if somebody from YouTube said they were the free speech platform of the world. I've been banned there since 2018 too. But you know what? Hey, maybe they're finally realizing, golly, Rumble is kind of on the come now. Rumble is maybe a legitimate competitor to ours when it comes to political news and commentary. Maybe we should consider competing with them when it comes to right-wingers and conservatives. Maybe Facebook is thinking the same thing. What's amazing, though, is all of this is definitely a response to the election. All of this is definitely some of the influence, at least, of Trump's victory, maybe even Trump's hand himself. So I hope the momentum keeps going, as we've had an ongoing debate on censorship, even on what's considered the actual free speech platform of the world, X. So it's a major topic. It's not going anywhere. And I'm more of a proponent of, I'm closer to free speech absolutism, maybe than most. And I don't know if you could argue that everything should be allowed, but I lean on the side of, if it doesn't need to be censored for obvious reasons, then why are we even talking about it? Right. No, I'm with you in that camp. And I think, it's interesting. I think we often give so much to these big tech CEOs that they're somehow almost a savior status. And I think that's a huge mistake. Even with Elon Musk, so many people, tie their future to Elon Musk, and now they're maybe going to tie their future to Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of these companies, of course, Google, started as offshoots, of course, of the CIA. And it have this close collaboration with the intelligence state. So how much can we really trust these guys? No, I think that's a fair question to ask. And when we went through this last political cycle, there's no doubt Elon Musk put as much weight as he possibly could in Donald Trump's corner, and it had a major result. Maybe one of the biggest factors as far as an individual contributor is concerned would be Elon Musk. But at the same time, I do think we have to be cautious of big tech, no matter who's running it. I do think we have to be cautious of big tech executives as far as, what are we sharing with them? And then ultimately, what is all this data being used for? Is it good? Is it evil? I suppose a hammer can be used to bash someone over the head, or it can be used to build a house. So that's the same thing with even the most advanced technologies. I look at X now and I'm thinking, well, even though it's a free speech platform for the most part that people want to be on and involved in, is it also being used to farm data and to build an AI system? And then for what larger purpose? So I think there's always healthy skepticism. And I think it's wise to even be skeptical and maybe not put your trust in anything. But, you said something very important there. How do you put your future? How do you bank your future on any big tech platform? I mean, it's almost like a necessary evil to some extent, because if you want to get the most reach, and if you want to build a brand or a business, then you have to be on these platforms. It's kind of a necessary evil at this point. It's not even an uphill battle to try to go fully independent or just build your own platform. It's like trying to it's like free climbing up a plateau. It's damn near impossible. Not many people can do it. So it's kind of a catch-22. And I think if we could just kind of get some basic trust back into some of these platforms that you're not going to be censored. So you're not going to build up a large audience and then get censored. And that we have a clear terms of service agreement. We have a clear terms of what data is being shared and what we're in control of as far as data is concerned. I think that that would be a good place to start. And maybe you're there with some of these apps. I've been banned off so many of them for so long. I really don't know what goes on. Nothing is perfect, but yes, you know, it was Matt Drudge that said, I believe it was in 2015 or 16. It was actually right here in the studio. And he said, you cannot get trapped into these internet ghettos. And at the time, people didn't really fully understand what he meant. But now we kind of do. It's the internet ghettos where everybody kind of exists. It's very congested. And at any given moment, you might just get disappeared. So I just want free speech. It's the First Amendment. It should be an American principle, an American value. And if it's something that is maybe debatable of whether it should exist or not, then it should exist. There's things that we can all agree shouldn't exist there. But if there's a debate, then I think it should exist. And most of these problems would just go away. Get rid of the political bias. Most of these problems probably just go away.
I'll get you out of here on this, Owen. You know, something that Mark Zuckerberg said that had Natalie and I just like fall out of our chair this morning as we were going over his notes is that political content on Facebook by their sort of fact checkers and whoever, the gatekeepers, was causing anxiety. And so they pulled back on suggesting political content to people in order to reduce anxiety. I was just stunned by that. So the idea that a big tech company, it's their job to basically make you feel better by the content they suggest to you, and they're going to police what's suggested to you to reduce your overall anxiety. So clearly reducing your anxiety by not showing you sort of pro-conservative content, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's clearly aimed at, I guess, what we would call snowflake leftists. I don't know too many right-wingers that get anxious over political debate. Right. I would imagine, you know, they have the option on X where you can mute words. So maybe they can add something like that to Facebook if they're concerned about it. That's likely just an excuse. Maybe there's something there where they are worried about people's mental health. But I would say that's probably mostly just an excuse to limit certain political content. And what we've seen, I mean, the proof is in the pudding that that's exactly what's going on. But let's just maybe go down that potential for a second. Isn't that such a blithe on our culture that people are afraid to talk about politics, or that somehow they're going to get anxious talking about politics? I mean, there's a deeper problem. There's a deeper rooted problem if a political discussion amongst adults is causing someone anxiety. So I don't really know what the source of that is, but you know, that's kind of a larger problem, I would say, if you're having anxiety issues over a political discussion with adults. That seems like there's some sort of a problem there. But if Facebook wants to get rid of it, they should just add a feature where you can mute certain words like Trump, if that's the word that triggers your anxiety. So, you know, I think it probably was unanticipated that Facebook or any of these platforms might just turn into just raw political heated debate, you know, 24/7. But that's just the world we live in. You know, one other factor, and this kind of ties into Zuckerberg and maybe Jeff Bezos too, and it's kind of a fun thing to goof about, but you know, there might be some reality as well. Zuckerberg started doing the testosterone replacement therapy, it appears. He's training in martial arts. So, you know, maybe he's kind of become a bit of a man, let's say, in his older years. Yeah, exactly. Some spine, some balls, you know, maybe a little hair on his chest, and he's got a little testosterone. So maybe he himself isn't as anxious over the situation on Facebook as well. So kind of a funny thing that we throw on there. But hey, you know, there might be something to it.
I think you might be onto something there. I think you're right about that. Wouldn't that be funny? And then we see the same maybe from Bezos, because clearly he's doing the same thing. Maybe we'll see that too. Great stuff. Owen Shroyer, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us here. As always, where can people watch you? What time can people catch you what's your normal schedule? If you have
weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time. I am live weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time, hosting the InfoWars War Room. You can go to owenshroyer.show to find that. I also do some bonus content on my Rumble channel, rumble.com/Owen. And I'm pretty active on X as well at Owen Shroyer 1776. Glad to be here anytime.
Thanks, Owen. So thanks to Owen for joining us here on the show. I sat down with him just a short time ago. So thanks for that. People wondering, is he in Antarctica? Is he the part of the Antarctica expedition there? No, that's just their set. So great to see Owen there. And I think we might be onto something with Zuckerberg. If he's taking testosterone, maybe that's why he's switching. He's trying to be more like a man. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't have an opinion about his masculinity, really.
Okay.
You've stumped me on this.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. I don't have an opinion, and I actively want to avoid forming one.
Okay. You don't want to ever think about masculinity.
His masculinity, his sexuality, his wardrobe, his lack there. Nope. I really don't want to.
His hair. Yeah.
The alpaca hairdo that I was keen on pointing out.
You don't want to have an opinion about it, but you do want to insult him. So just to be clear. Okay.
I don't think I didn't say anything.
You called his hair. You called Zuckerberg's hair an alpaca.
That is the fashion for all young men right now, is the alpaca hairstyle. Have you missed this one?
No. If you look at any teenage boy right now, I swear to God, like, what is going on with these teenage boys? They just their hair is just like a freaking, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, cabeza do broccoli.
All right. We've got more news to get to here on your, what is it, Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday. Yes, it is. We're going to talk to She Van Fleet coming up. She's the first-time Redacted guest. I had a chance to speak with her earlier today, and I'm excited for you to hear how she lays out so expertly the hell that we've been through in the Biden administration era, how we were dangerously close to communism, and whether or not we can actually escape it, or will we continue this slide. Before we do that, though, we want to remind you that Redacted is sponsored by Ledger. Ledger is a digital wallet that will help you keep all of your finances and all of your assets in one place. Now is a good time. I always set a calendar alert at the end of every quarter to go over our finances with Clayton and make sure, has he changed any passwords? Where do we keep our digital wallet? Make sure that I have everything, because what if one of us is hit by a bus and we wouldn't know how to get access to those assets? Well, it's a good time to go over this. It's the start of a new year with your family. How do you access your ledger? What accounts are there? What would you find there? It's a great place to get started, and they will teach you how to do that, because of course, security is of paramount concern right now. It's trusted by 7 million users, securing 20% of the world's digital assets, because especially if you know about blockchain, that's not just something you could call a company and say, well, my husband's no longer with us, so I need access to this. It doesn't work this way. You need to make sure that you have a plan, a solid plan to protect your assets, make sure they're secure, and also make sure that you can pass them down to your loved ones. So Ledger has new hardware wallets, the Ledger Stacks and the Ledger Flex. They're the most secure and user-friendly way to manage your digital assets. They have an intuitive touchscreen and comprehensive ecosystem of products and services, making digital ownership accessible to everyone. So buy your Ledger device now at ledger.com to secure your digital future before it's too late. And in fact, this is something that Clayton and I just did with our son as well. Now that he's old enough to understand our family's estate, we told him what we have and where he would need to find it should something happen to his dad and I. So this is a good time to do those due diligent tasks. Do it. So head on over to shop.ledger.com/redacted. One more time, that's shop.ledger.com/redacted. Well, have we escaped a communist fate by ending the Obama-Biden era? There's no one better to ask than the author of Mao's America, She Van Fleet. I spoke to her earlier today about all the parallels that she writes about in her book that we have actually seen happening in our real American life under the Biden administration. Normalization of criminals, the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of gender roles. Did you know that happened under Maoist China for a reason? It's a way to control people, lowering the standard of education, punishing anyone with financial independence. I also asked her about someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who has aided this communist revolution and censorship regime. Can he be trusted to stop that like he says he's going to do? Here is part of that interview now. I hope you enjoy it. I want to ask you an overarching question, is that now that the Biden era is ending in a matter of days, we have an incoming Trump administration. Can an incoming Trump administration actually end those things. How do you see that happening, if at all?
No, I think this is not something that came over here overnight. And it's not going to go away overnight. And I think communism is a virus. It's just like COVID. And now possibly we reduce it into a cold, but it's not going to go away. It's something that we have to understand, and we have to be ready to fight it long term. So it's not going to go away.
Well, the Chinese now don't live in a necessarily free world, but they don't live like this any longer. So the Chinese can pursue a good education. They can travel abroad. They can. There are things they have now that obviously they didn't have when you were growing up. So how did that evolve?
Well, it's because Mao took China to a dead end, took the CCP to a dead end. By the time he died, China was at the brink of total collapse, and the whole communist ideology was bankrupt. They have to, they really have to revive, and how? By introducing or by bringing in the foreign capitals. So it looks like China, this is very misleading. They look like China is a capitalist country to a lot of uninformed American. It's not. It is communist country, and their goal is not to improve the lives of the Chinese people, but to secure their power. So anything they do, that's their primary motivation. So now they have better education, but the education also is indoctrination. It just changed. And now it's like a patriotic, they call it, Xi Jinping called it patriotic education. But it's not about love of the country. It's the love of the party. So to understand CCP will help us to understand woke. And because what woke is about is Maoism. So we have to go back and to see what happened during the Cultural Revolution. And all the things that we are now familiar with has been really, really used to bring about that disastrous revolution. Anything about weaponize the youth and identity politics. And it's not called defund the police. It's to totally destroy the criminal justice system. Everything is similar to what happened in the Cultural Revolution. And you will say, why? Why Mao did all this? Power. Everything.
Right. So let's start there, because now we think of the Chinese as high test scorers, but you tell the story of how you went to school and learned next to nothing except the party indoctrination. And so can you compare that to the standards of education in the United States, that we continue to lower them under the guise of acceptance and tolerance? But that's not tolerance. That's keeping people poor.
Yeah, this is so confusing to a lot of people, but it's very important to understand why Mao did what he did and why she did something that looked like different. Mao was launching a revolution. Why he did that is he felt like he was losing power. And he wanted to launch his revolution in order to get power back. And so he did not want people well educated. He wanted everyone to be a revolutionary, follow his order and take down the system and destroy the society so that he can take power. And what happened now is Xi Jinping has power. He has absolute power. He doesn't want chaos. He wants his people to build his version of the socialism. And then he wants people to study. He wants the kids to be good at math, good at the basic skills. But it's not for the benefit of the people. It's the benefit of his power. So that is the difference. We are at the stage that it's a revolution. Woke is a revolution. Some people want to take power. In order to do that, they have to do what Mao did, destroy everything, cultural, tradition, gender role, just destroy everything so that they can have.
Talk to me about decriminalizing laws as well and allowing the criminals free reign on anyone's property, because that is something we've seen. You know, we've argued about FBI crime statistics, but empirically, most of us who live in the United States know crime is skyrocketing. It's a hell. That is a way of subjugating people by allowing the law abiders to be terrorized by criminals, right?
Yeah, it's the chaos. It's to create chaos. Mao famously said, we need chaos. We need chaos every 7 years, because from the chaos, we can bring about a new order. It's like it is really like the reset. It is really like what they said, burn everything down and build back better. And so that is something that why it's so similar. They have the same goal. Their goal is to usher in the chaos so that they can, through the process, they can get absolute power.
Now, how is that sold to communist China? Because to us, Americans, it's sold as compassion, that these people live in poverty. They don't have an opportunity to earn for themselves. They don't have the intellectual bandwidth to do any better. So we need to feel sorry for them because this is their only path towards success. Was that a similar message in communist China?
Well, similar but different. History never repeats itself, but it always rhymes. Okay, here we were told that America is a racist country. The system is systemically racist. That's why we have inequality. And in order to bring about equity to everyone, which is a Marxist terminology, we have to destroy the system. By what? By DEI and by the government determining who should have what. And how did Mao sell it to the Chinese people? It's a little different. He told the young people, we are a socialist country, but there are a lot of people in power. They want to bring back capitalism and make us suffer again, made us be exploited. And that's why those people are called capitalist roaders. And so he told the young people, his army is the young Red Guards. We have to get our power back from those capitalist roaders. We have to take them down. And I was too young, but I know they are talking about capitalist roaders. I did not understand what capitalism is. I just know it is evil. It is bad because we're all from the same indoctrination camp, the public schools, right? So capitalism is bad. Those people want to take us back to capitalism. No way, we have to destroy the whole system. I hope that it's clear to people that it is a parallel. And that the parallel is condemn the existing system to destroy it so you can bring in something new. And here they bring in woke, they're bringing Maoism, extreme radical version of Marxism.
I find this tough because it preys upon good intentions of young people. And we see that happening right now because young people think they're sold T-shirts at Target that say capitalism is bad, down with the patriarchy, it's on babies' onesies. They mean well. They mean that they want less privileged people than them to have more, which is a good intention because they maybe feel guilty for their own privilege, right? And so that ideology makes them torture people who have something who don't feel like they do. So how can we protect young people from being indoctrinated against their own community? I mean, when I see this, sometimes I think, okay, young person, just, go to Saudi Arabia, see how you like it there then, if that's how you feel. So how do we keep governments from preying on the good intentions of young people?
I always say the key to de-brainwash or deprogram those young people is history, because they don't know history. They do not know the history of communism. Those are the same kind of narrative that been used before. And the result is there for everyone to see if they are taught of the real history. How did Chinese communism succeed in China? And the slogan is equity, that you follow the Communist Party and we will bring equity to everyone. We'll get the land from the landowners. We'll give it to poor peasants. We'll get the property from the factory owners. We'll equally distribute it so everyone has the same. And that is what the narrative they sold. And they absolutely sold it, and people bought it, follow him, and then they realize, what is equity? It's the government decide who should have what, and what's the result is end up everyone has nothing.
And do you see a parallel in this discussion about the murder of the United Health CEO because he represented a system that was worth being tore down? And so we see these communist bent people celebrating this, forgetting that he's a human being like the rest of us, and they can disrupt the system if they actually maybe study it and try harder. So what was your reaction to that reaction online celebrating this?
It's very familiar. That's what happened in China in 1949, right after the CCP took over power. They had this so-called land reform. And all the landowners, their property was taken. Not only that, by being a landowner, that is your crime. And anything done to you is justified. Torture, beating, humiliation, and during the process, 2 million landlords were killed. And they're killed. So because the landlord, that's it. Their crime is that they had wealth. And this is exactly the kind of mentality here. He deserves it because he is wealthy and he's in charge of a company that somehow profited from exploiting people. Same narrative. Absolutely. In the human life, it's not in the equation. It's all about the wealth is the source of all evils.
Now, do you find it ironic that Chinese have a word for basically the white left or woke? They call it, can you pronounce this better for me, Baizhou? Is that Baizu?
Baizuo.
And so if they can see it from abroad, from their less free country, what does that tell us? And what can you explain this word for us?
History is repeating. When I say repeating, I mean rhymes. What's going on here is Americans' cultural revolution, and people afar can see it because they know history. And that's why people mocking, especially those white liberals. So they're not those people who want free stuff, right? Like in China, those peasants want free land. And no, not like here that people want to get free peace from the government. No, they are different kind of people. They want to help those that they think need help. And so they are the ones that they believe that communism is the way to help the others. So they promote it. And we have those useful idiots in China too. And those are the intellectuals who helped the communist revolution. And guess what happened to them? They all end up in the gulags because they eventually was wondering after the revolution, hey, this is not what we think. This is not what we signed up for. You dare to challenge, you dare to question, off they go to the gulags. And this is, again, the history they do not know. So, as I said, when we educate American people, and the kids especially, about the communism and about Chinese Cultural Revolution, people can see the parallel for themselves. But we don't We don't have control of our education system. We do not have control of higher education. That is the problem, and that they have control of academia since the 30s. That's why today people do not know the history, and they do not know what happened in China, which is so similar to what's going on here, because they can tell. Since they can tell, they believe the lies. And that is our challenge.
I think that, when my children, who are middle schoolers and high schooler, ask about communism because it's presented as this utopian, everyone shares resources type thing, but it's never actually worked, I remind them that every communist experiment has ended in starvation. In fact, I should make a shirt. Absolutely. Communism equals starvation. And why is that? Is because you're putting the power in the hands of the few that cannot be trusted. And there's no say, there's no egalitarian say in what happens in communism. One thing that you mentioned here that sort of popped up current events, you said that those that helped the communist revolution ended up in the gulag. And I couldn't help but think of the video that Mark Zuckerberg posted today, basically saying, I'm sorry, I have worked with the Biden era to censor content on the internet. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to work with President Trump to make sure that other countries don't do it either. We had no choice. That's the way it was. Can you come back from that? He is one that helped the communist revolution. I don't feel very forgiving. What do we do with that?
I don't either. And for people who don't stand for the basic principle, make what America is, and those people cannot be trusted. And so people tell me that I'm courageous, I speak out. I'm not courageous. I am defending myself because I've lived under the slavery of communism. I know where this is leading to. And I am in it because I want to save myself from living under communism one more time. I'm fighting for myself. So I think he does not understand. He does not understand what makes this country free. If we cannot even speak up our mind, there's no freedom. There's just no freedom. So I will see, hopefully he'll come around, but I'm not quick to say, everything is fine.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. You can watch the remainder of that interview on our channel later today. So please look it up and let me know what you think. I do very much recommend the book. It's an easy read and it's fascinating. And as I read it, I thought to myself, yes, this is our reality. Yes, this is our reality too. Why didn't we see it? Well, it takes someone like this with this cultural perspective to lay it out for us. So I think you'll very much appreciate it. Also, I'd love your thoughts on whether or not you'd wear a shirt like that, because I definitely will. We're going to work on that shirt, that communism equals starvation. I think people don't understand that this is the extreme of this. You may be well-intended. You may want other people to have more. That's not how it works. Communism has never actually worked in history. It just allows people to starve. So would you rock that shirt? Let me know what you think of that. Okay, well, that's going to do it for us today on Redacted. We will be back tomorrow. We're back at work. Holidays are over. Back to work, man. So we're back to work. Hopefully you're happy to be back at work too, if that's what you're doing. Hey, don't forget we have a free newsletter that accompanies this show. You can find it at redacted.inc. There's no upsell to the Redacted newsletter. None whatsoever, my friend. I promise you. We may link you to something that's behind a paywall, but that's not us. That's just something that maybe somebody else has launched a news payroll on. We try not to do that. We try to make it so that it is your link to original sources so that you can study up the topics that you care about for yourself. We want you to read and think for yourself. So please do subscribe at redacted.inc to our free newsletter. We write it every day before the show, and it will sort of inform you on the topics that we're going to talk about later in the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great Tuesday.